Hey guys, Becky here with Design Bundles, and today I'm super excited to bring you another great project. This is probably one of my favorite ones of the season so far, so let me show you how to make an embroidery hoop wreath. So here we are in Silhouette Studio, right? And the first thing I want to show you, I often skip this step, but I really like to emphasize how important it is to set up your page correctly before you even go any farther. That way you don't have to worry about it or worry about remembering to set up all your settings. Okay, so we're going to look at the page setup menu panel, page setup panel. I'm going to choose my machine. I'm using a Cameo. My cutting mat will be, I'm just kidding. I was going to say none. That's not true. We'll use a 12 by 12 cutting mat. I'm going to move it over, not that you need to, but just so that you can see. And then my media size is going to be custom because I'm cutting on a 12-inch by 10-inch piece of material. Okay, now I'm using flocked heat transfer vinyl, and it's going to be really awesome for our project. But what I want to show you, I'm going to go to File and Merge. That's going to allow me to pull in the design that I purchased from Design Bundles right into my existing workspace. All right, so there we go. And now another thing that I want to do is I want to show my cut border. That's going to tell me how far I can stretch this design. And I already know what size I need it, typically speaking. But I'm going to lock my aspect ratio up here. And for height, I'm going to change this because I know my heat transfer vinyl is only 10 inches. So I'm going to change this to 9.75. And then I can center the page if I want to. And let me tell you, well, it matters because that's what's going to fit on my design. But the embroidery hoop that I am working with is a 12 by 12. So I'm going to draw a circle that is 12 by 12. And if I center it with my design, you'll see that that's actually a really good size. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, because my embroidery hoop wreath is going to have a bow, if I wanted to, I could, come down here and put it more towards the bottom, or I could smash it a little bit if I wanted to. I don't really want to do that. I'm actually going to put my bow more on the top so that it doesn't cover up my design. But I just wanted to show you guys that if you're ever in doubt on setting up your design, you can draw something like a rectangle or a circle to help you make sure that you get your sizing and placement correct. Okay? So I can delete it now. I don't actually need that. I just needed that for sizing. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup because I need to see what's going on here with Winter. I think Winter was a double layered design and I don't need that. So I'm going to select all of this here and I'm going to right click and choose Weld. There we go. Now I will come up here in the top right hand corner and I will group. And then of course I can make it a design or a color that's easier to see. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to flip horizontally. I always prefer to mirror my own design. That way I don't have to worry about the software doing it for me. And I'm going to push it all the way over here to the edge. That way I can be a little frugal and save the HTV that is over here on the right hand side. Now, what I'm going to do, now first of all, let me say, I told you that I'm using flocked heat transfer vinyl. I am prepared, and you need to be prepared, that when you're cutting flocked heat transfer vinyl or glitter heat transfer vinyl, it does not always handle detail as well as smooth does. So what that means is some of these smaller snowflakes, they just may not cut well. So there may be some casualties, and I just want you guys to be prepared for that. That way, if you're prepared for it in advance and it happens, you can be like, oh, okay. But if you're using smooth heat transfer vinyl, then technically you should be okay, just depending on the brand and style that you're working with, okay? All right, another thing that I can do if I want to is I can draw, normally I would call it a weeding box. But this time, I guess it would actually be a weeding circle. But it's going to be a circle that goes all the way around my design and helps me whenever it's time to weed my project. So let's go ahead and do that today, but basically you want to make sure that that doesn't cut into any part of your design. But it also cannot be bigger than the material you're working with. All right, so I'm going to click over to the send panel. And the first thing that I want to double check is I'm going to select my entire design, including my weeding circle, and I'm going to choose no cut. And I'm going to switch back to cut. And I found myself needing to do that lately because for some reason some of my designs are coming in and they're showing up really bright red, like this one where it says cut edge. And I just want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So I want to make sure that it's just a regular cut. I'm going to switch my material to heat transfer flocked. And then I can go ahead and perform a test cut and make sure that those settings are going to work for me. Okay. So as long as my test cut is successful, then I will just be able to use the send button down here at the bottom. Now, if for some reason my test cut is not successful, then I want to come in here, and since my force is already at 33, what I would do is go ahead and increase my blade in increments of 1 and until I get a successful cut. Okay. But with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to load this into my machine, and then I will be able to cut it and show it for you. And obviously I'm going to do the weeding. I'll do that in hyperspeed so I don't bore you guys. But I'll try to point out whether these little snowflakes made it successfully or not. Okay. All right. See you soon. So flocked HTV, you just want to make sure shiny side is against the mat. You can tell it is a much thicker heat transfer vinyl. All right, but don't let that stop you. Line it up with your rollers. Load your cutting mat. And I use a ratchet blade, so I need to go ahead and adjust this. And now in my software, I'm gonna send this. All right, so time to weed. I usually go ahead and start on a corner. This is a circle, we don't have corner, so any edge should be fine. Now, you do want to be careful. A lot of times you'll see me weed HTV and I'll just grab one side and start ripping it off. I am definitely more careful with flocked. Not that you have to be super careful, but it just... And it's not delicate. Delicate's not the word that I'm looking for. It just doesn't handle detail very well. And see, so here's a perfect example of that snowflake. So I will probably, instead of fighting with those, I'll probably just take those off. I don't think they're going to add a whole lot to the design anyway. So just, if you don't see those in the final project, you know why. But yeah, the flocked just does not handle that detail very well. But I do like to work my way in from the outside. So I'm going to go all the way around and then I'll start pulling in. Now I will be careful around the larger snowflakes because I do want to keep those if possible. Basically any snowflake that I can keep intact without losing a whole bunch of detail or having to fight with it a whole lot, then I will. Everything else will just be a casualty of the design because I knew when I selected flocked heat transfer vinyl for this project that the snowflakes maybe weren't meant to be. If you happen to have fingernails, you don't even really need a weeding tool until you get to the inner parts of the letters and the design. And all this seems like it takes a long time. It really doesn't. I find that weeding flocked and glitter are both faster than the smooth. So just something to keep in mind. Now, if you haven't worked with flocked before, you may be asking, what is flocked HTV? And flocked HTV is a fuzzy HTV. It's really great. I use it a lot for Christmas, for holiday crafting like we're doing today. And then I use it a lot for Halloween. It makes really great fuzzy spiders. I also use it a lot around Easter because it makes really great bunnies. Like there's just a whole wealth of reasons for you to get to know flocked HTV better. So I'm just weeding the inside of my letters. Super, super easy with flocked. Flocked HTV is also very, very useful for children's and babies projects because of how soft it is. It's also really good to use on blankets and fleece materials. So fleece materials, you actually don't want to use smooth heat transfer vinyl because it just doesn't, like it wrinkles up really bad. So what that means is that you'll want to use glitter or flocked, and not everybody likes glitter. So flocked is a really great alternative, especially if you're making a gift for a man or a boy. Not that they're thrilled about flocked, but they're more thrilled about flocked than they are about glitter. So it's kind of a trade-off. Okay, so I just want to check all my snowflakes. And like I said, the ones that didn't survive the weeding, I can go ahead and remove if I want to. If I don't want to pull those off the sheet, then I can come back with my scissors and just cut that part of the transfer away. I'm going to try to keep from doing that because the roundness of my transfer is going to help me line this up in the center, in my opinion, whenever it's time to add this to my embroidery hoop wreath. Also, if you don't want to deal with these snowflakes at all, then you can remove them from your design before cutting. If you already know, like, hey, that's just not a headache that I want to deal with, that's okay. Just go ahead and remove those before you cut, and then they just won't cut at all, and they will weed out as if they were never there because they're not there. Okay, so when you flip it over, you get a preview of what your file is going to look like. This is a great opportunity to read it and make sure that everything is weeded out like it's supposed to be. I also went back and touched up a few of my snowflakes. I wasn't quite ready to let them go, so I'm going to move this to the side and I'm going to clean up this mess that I made. Okay, so let's talk about our wreath assembly. I have a piece of cotton fabric. Now, cotton is very common. This is 14 by 14. Also, fleece is very common. Let's go ahead and get this guy out of the way. We don't need him anymore. Okay, so I have my piece here. And basically, what we're going to do is I will apply the heat transfer vinyl. And then I will encase this entire design with my embroidery hoop wreath. And then I'm going to top it off with some ribbon, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and first I need to iron this out. That way I don't have that crease in the middle. Okay, so that didn't take too long. Go ahead and position. Now, like I said, I wanna try to get, and I'm gonna use my embroidery hoop wreath. If I put my wreath in the middle, or my hoop rather, then that helps me line up my design because I kept it a circle, okay? So move the wreath, you don't need that long term. Cover it with your Teflon sheet and come back in and press with your easy press or stick it in your heat press for a little bit. Now, depending on what brand you use, sometimes flocked is a cold peel. This one I am peeling hot, it's still hot, but I want to be extra careful and watch and make sure that all of my pieces stay adhered, and they did. So toss that, and look how awesome that design looks. Okay, I really, really love it. Really love it. Now here comes the easy part. I mean, I feel like the HTV is the hardest part of that. And I'm gonna show you guys about my bows. I know a lot of times you guys ask, and I am not a bow expert by any means, but I've been saying that I would try to do a basic beginner bows by Becky video. So I'm gonna give you a little preview today. Sometimes these wreaths can be hard to unscrew. It's not very common, so I'd be surprised if you guys had that problem too. All right, there we go. You don't have to loosen it all the way. You don't have to take the screw all the way out. But basically, I'm gonna slide this underneath. Okay, so try to pay attention to your placement here. And give it a little tug this direction or that. But try not to dislodge your hoop. Now tighten it down. I would say tighten it down as much as you can with your fingers. But it doesn't have to be, in my opinion, it doesn't have to be super tight. but you do want it to be tight enough to hold your fabric in there. And anytime that I tug on my fabric, I try to hold the hoop in place so that I don't dislodge it by mistake. Now, I think that this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I actually really like the fabric showing around the outside of my embroidery hoop wreath. So I don't trim mine all the way, but a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll turn theirs over and they will trim right around the edge. And I guess I do that in a sense, but I don't trim all the way up against my hoop. But I also like farmhouse decor, and I feel like this kind of goes hand in hand. So I'm not going to worry about sealing my fabric. I'm not going to worry about if this is straight. You know, it kind of all goes, I feel like, hand in hand with that rustic look. And I just want to say embroidery hoop wreaths are very inexpensive to make. So this time next year, I doubt that I'll be pulling this out of my closet to hang back on my front door if I use this as a door hanger, but it should hold up reasonably well if you're using it for decor inside your house. All right, so we're looking good there? Relatively speaking. I think I went a little wider around the outside here. The great thing too is all you ladies who have a fabric stash, I know you're out there. I know you're watching this video. Hey, I'm not here to judge you. But what I am here to tell you is that you can break out your fabric. I mean, so this only took this is a 12-inch embroidery hoop, and it only took, I used a 14 by 14 inch square fabric. So really easy on the fabric stash. You can still continue to hoard. It only took half of a sheet of HTV, and this is a yard of ribbon for each of these, but you really don't even need that much if you don't want to. So let's slide this to the side. And I'm going to talk to you about these ribbons. So these both do have the wire edge, and it is so easy to make. Let me show you. You fold it over. Well, try to find the middle. All right, try to find the middle. Give it a little crease. And know that that is your middle, okay? Fold it over. However big or small you want your little hoop to be. So all you're going to do is you're going to take this, pinch it in the middle, and just scrunch it together with the ends. Okay, super easy. Now, like I said, I am not a professional bow maker. This is not a professional bow, but this is the Becky Made It bow, and for me, it's good enough. And I really like to just use some embroidery, and I just like to use some twine because, like I said, I mean, this is an embroidery hoop wreath. I go for the rustic look. I hold it with my fingers underneath here and just wrap it with the other hand. I'm just going to wrap it a couple times and tighten it down and then tie it off in the back. Now, I've done my bows this way for years and years. They're not going to come loose. You can actually also do something similar with hot glue if you don't want to tie them off or if you don't have any twine. Okay, so that's one bow. And I'm leaving the tails on that one. And then I'm going to come back in with my snowman and do the same thing, but a little smaller. So find my center. Okay, so I've just crisscrossed these, right? Even up my tails a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to pinch. So I actually pinch on the front, turn it over, push from the back so it folds over my fingers. Think of like a puppet mouth. Okay. Pinch in again so that I can let go. Can you see how that's sandwiched in there? And fold it back over. So like I said, nothing special. Now, if you're going very rustic, then you will want to wrap a few more times with the twine because it will actually add to that appeal. Okay, the more twine you have in the middle. All right, so this one, I've tied it and I'm just going to clip off closer to the base. And then I can layer it right on top of this one. And to secure them together, use that tail that I left hanging. And this one I go in both directions. Wrap it around the back and tie a knot. So then all you're going to do is you can push in on your bows to fluff them up. And sometimes what I'll do is try to offset so that you can see the bows, the hoops. What do you want to call those? You guys know what I'm talking about. So that you can see those on top of, or at least coming out to the side of, your smaller bow. Okay, now another super easy trick. Take your ribbon, fold it in half. So this is my folded part. This is my seam. Take my scissors and cut in, and that's how you get those perfect little tails. Now this part of the ribbon, especially if I was going to put it outside, I would get some sealer or try to seal it with heat. A lot of times you can take a lighter or some super glue and add it to the ends to keep the ends from fraying. So this bow is made with 2 yards, 1 yard each, but 2 yards of different ribbon. And it is just one of the easiest projects you will do all Christmas. So there we go. Let's get these out of the way. The even easier thing about your embroidery hoop is, remember we put the screw up here at the top? You can actually just tie your bow right up there to the top. So then you don't even need any hot glue or adhesive. And you can do the same thing. You can tie some twine to the top to do, sorry, I realize you guys can't see that. There we go. And you can do the same thing with some additional twine to hang this on your door or hang it up on your wall. All right, so once you have it tied, just position it. I do try to bring my tails up and out for this because I don't want to cover up my design. So if I'm having a hard time with that, then sometimes I'll take some hot glue and I will pin those up that way. But for this one, I think we're good. What do you guys think? Do you like it? I love it. So now you guys know how to make your very own embroidery hoop wreath. So guys, how did you feel about our project today? Yay! I really love it. If you couldn't tell, I really love it, but I feel that way about a lot of things. I just think there's so many cool things that these machines can do, right? So I'm going to issue you a challenge, all right? I need you to do this. If you do no other projects this holiday season, this is one. I mean, all you need is a couple bucks. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. You can go to the dollar store and get Christmas wreath. I know you have some fabric. If you don't have fabric, you can use an old t-shirt. So really all you need is a couple bucks, an old t-shirt, and an embroidery hoop wreath. All right, so I'm just saying, this is a project worth making. It is super cute. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate you stopping by today. As always, make sure you do us a favor and hit that like, subscribe, and share. Help us keep growing the channel, and we will help you by bringing you more videos right around the corner. If you have any video requests or questions or comments, make sure you leave those below. I love to hear from you guys. And hey, what else can I say? I'll see you next time.